So, I want to thank everybody who is watching for joining us. So many things this year. SideFest was so like so many things this year. SideFest was up in the air. We were really hoping that we would be all together in person, but with the pandemic being what it is, um, here we are. We're hoping everyone is healthy, but the important thing for us at SideFest was to ensure the health and safety of our attendees, our dealers, and our staff. But what we didn't want to sacrifice is our connection to the community. And so throughout the weekend, we will be having dealers, panels, and activities similar to what you would be seeing at SideFest had we been in person. So please take a look at our schedule SideFest NW and see what events interest you and come hang out with some of your fellow Transformer fans. I want to do a special thank you to Jason and Liz for all the work that they're doing behind the scenes. Because literally, without them, this would not be happening. And also a big shout out to the people that have submitted panels, as well as are participating in panels. Without them, it would just basically be me talking all weekend, and nobody wants that. So we will be monitoring questions in the Twitch chat. So sit back, relax with SciFest Northwest Online. And our first panel, which is including Jason and Ryan and Randy, was talking about character collecting and when we obsess over one specific character and have that kind of dominate our attention. So without further ado, let's introduce our panel here. So we got, if everybody'd like to introduce themselves, go for it.
All right, I'll go ahead and start off. I'm Jason. I'm one of the organizers of SciFest. I tend to do most of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And for whatever reason, I started developing a Grimlock collection. It was a kind of for whatever reason, he was my favorite character as a kid. I remember my parents always told me that one year, all I wanted for Christmas was a Grimlock, and he broke shortly thereafter. So my Grimlock for most of my childhood was the Pretender Grimlock, which I got as a replacement later. And then apparently I've had a subconscious desire to make up for that by overindulging in that one character.
Well, I guess I'll go next. I'm Ryan, and been a fan since the get-go in '84. And Jazz is my favorite character, and we'll go into more of that a little bit later.
It's like there's some technical difficulties. Randy, are you there? Figures first panel of the show, of course, people are going to have connection problems.
Everybody heard me, though, right?
Oh, yeah, we heard you fine.
Okay.
So Ben's back?
Good.
Yeah. There was a lot of like lag and stuff going on, so.
Yeah, you were frozen, and then you dropped off entirely.
Okay, I may end up, my wife is also on a different call, so I don't know if that's going to be really affecting things. So I will.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, our favorite robots are built around adaptation, so we shall adapt just like they do.
Right. There you go. So, all right. So you've introduced Ryan. Did he introduce?
Yep, Ryan did.
Randy disappeared. Okay, well, I'm not sure what you all talked about initially, but I'm Ben Harpold. I'm one of the organizers of SideFest, and I am somewhat known for my Bumblebee collection, and yeah, and it's ridiculous and it's fun, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it yet. So, all right, let me get into some questions. All right, we kind of established which characters people collect, and we'll jump back at Randy when he gets back in. Why the character that you collect, Jason?
Yeah, I mentioned a little bit when I was kind of doing my intro. For whatever reason, Grimlock was a favorite of mine growing up. I think just because he was big and dumb and powerful, and just a lot of fun. Plus, he's a giant robotic T-Rex, so that's always good. And one year for Christmas, apparently that's all I wanted, and then he broke not too long thereafter. And so I think I may have had a subconscious desire to make up for that by just overindulging in that one character. But I think his design is great. He's got a really powerful look in both modes with the T-Rex and the robot. I like how they've kept modernizing him. There's a different vision of how T-Rexes looked back in the 80s as opposed to now. Like they were big lumbering creatures then. Now they're more lithe like birds. Just giant birds with massive jaws. And so I think they've done a really good job of kind of modernizing the overall look of that character, but still keeping like the core elements like the wings and everything pretty consistent.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
All started back in 1984. It was one of the first toys I got, first character I identified with and liked, and it never changed. I liked a lot of other characters going through, but Jazz always was, I don't know if it was his kind of connection to humanity and understanding humanity and that kind of thing that I liked as a kid, but went all the way through, never changed. So.
Yeah, definitely both of those are top characters for me. For Bumblebee, it kind of started with Christmas morning 1984. I had my stocking, and inside that stocking was a little Bumblebee, and that was my very first Transformer, and I could relate to the character. I was 6 years old when the show started, so he was being kind of the kid Transformer, so I could relate to it. And I didn't start really collecting until about that character, focused on that character until about 2006, and then it just went on from there. And there was a question in the chat that I got, which is how many Bumblebees I have, and I would probably say with like Bumblebee merchandise, probably 400 to 500, with probably easily 300 figures with all the repaints and different releases over the years. So I've not actually counted in a very long time. So
I don't know if I should count.
And there was a question for Jason if whether or not he had the studio series Grimlock.
Yeah, I think it's a great character. It's got the most accurate paint jobs at all of them. There were some questionable paint schemes, to say the least, for the AOE line when that first came out. That weird chrome job on the original leader, doing all the Dinobots. It's kind of like a Sentai team with all their unique primary colors. The studio series is really interesting because basically that mold adopts the Beast Wars of Megatron transformation scheme. Where the dino legs are the robot legs, and then the head and the tail form both arms. So it's a very interesting take on the character. Whereas the original leader, of course, had a more traditional scheme where the dino legs become the robot arms. I like both. I like both of them. I think my favorite of the movie molds right now is actually the Leader Grimlock that came in the 2-pack with Optimus. There's a really pretty paint scheme on that. It's not movie accurate quite, but it's got this blue and green and bronze kind of gradient paint scheme to it. It looks really pretty in the Dyno mode.
On. Just got another question. Our favorite and least favorite toy of the character. So that's a tough one. Because I mean, there's like for me, I have transforming figures. I have the little figurines. I have I'll buy the one-step figures, which obviously aren't nearly as interesting or entertaining as like say Masterpiece figures. Let's see. I have to look and see what catches my eye. I'll say for me, probably the Bumblebee that really got me into the idea of collecting Bumblebee was the 2006 Classics Bumblebee. I really like that mold. I still love that mold. It was the first one that I actually bought 2 of so that I could have it in robot and vehicle mode because I just loved them both so much. So that would probably be my favorite or one of my favorites. As far as one of my least favorites, maybe the Ultimate Bumblebee from the 2007 movie. Because it's very chunky looking and not my favorite to transform. Hey, there's some of my Bumblebee collection and some. So I have like my shelves divided out by. There you go. There's a big shot of my Bumblebee collection. My shelves divided out a lot by releases. So I'll have like my Prime shelf. I'll have that was like the most recent movie Bumblebee, and then I have Rescue Bots. I'll have G1. I have a lot of movie shelves. So what about you, Jason and Ryan? What are some of your favorite, least favorite?
Well, I guess I'll go. Favorite wise, I'm a little jealous. I wish I had a Masterpiece version like you guys have, but obviously not yet. Licensing. I would say for favorites, currently probably animated. I enjoyed the different take on that. Let's see, the United version of the classics is great, and then probably least favorite, and I hope I don't offend anybody, is the movie versions. But I still collect, regardless.
I hope nobody actually takes offense at what you prefer. That would be very weird.
Well, people get defensive about movie stuff, so I'm trying to be nice.
But hey, you're at least acknowledging it as part of the Transformer line, so instead of pretending it doesn't exist. So,
well, I might pretend a little.
What about you, Jason?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's like, which is your favorite child, I suppose?
Well, you only have one, so that should hopefully be a pretty easy, pretty easy choice.
Yeah, it's not too.
We'll ask Ryan who his favorite child is later.
I don't want to have video proof of that one.
Yeah, let's see. I think the King Grimlock Masterpiece is a favorite. You can see it kind of right there in the middle. It's like the MPU mold is even though it's kind of small and it's definitely an older masterpiece, it's a lot of fun. It's very, very faithful to the original animation model. The original one came with an apron, a bow tie, and a tray of glasses. Which it's amazing they decided to take that one moment of all of them and put that in plastic. And then they did this Marvel Comics version with this really pretty silver paint job. I think it's great. Another one that I really like, even though it's not official, you see there on the bottom is the Fans Project one. Personally, I tend to avoid the MP attempts from third parties because these are just really big and really, really expensive. But Fans Project did this really kind of super robot take on all the Dinobots because generally their setting is kind of super robot, and it created this really live, very very athletic looking T-Rex mode. And then another one is the Fall Cybertron design. Even though the toy is not great, it's like that design of the character I thought was really great.
Yeah, it is a good one. Jason, I got a message from Randy's asking to let him into the chat.
Sorry about that.
So I'm gonna, when Randy gets in here, we'll get his take on some of this. I did notice that most of Jason's Grimlocks are robot mode.
Actually, that's not correct. Most of them are Dino.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess maybe just the ones that I'm seeing.
My general rule is, since he's in Dino mode most of the time, typically he will be in Dino mode. I will also for versions that have like multiple repaints, like we got a ton of those in the movie, so I can find the photo real quick. Yeah, so here they're mostly Dino. Though if there's usually like at least one of each, or like a couple of each one, I'll usually do one or two in the Dino mode, and then do like one in the robot mode at least, to kind of show how that mold looks in different modes. You see, like also here, I've got the G1 repaints of the movie dinos and the robot and their Dino modes. The False Cybertron, those ones, third-party ones, I did those in robot mode because they were mostly robots in the game.
Very cool. Randy, you're back.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
It needed the old-fashioned turn it on and turn it off and turn it back on again. It's weird. No audio. It was really, really odd. So sorry about that. I apologize.
No worries. We were talking about what got us collecting the character that we are collecting.
Yeah, was it my turn?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, honestly, there's a reason why I put this up over my shoulder here. Those Transformer sheets were actually my first real memory of Transformers. I don't even know where we got them. Someone gave them to me. I never saw the show growing up. I always saw GoBots for some weird reason, but then I always saw the Transformer toys. So that's why whenever I collect or there's paint decos, I a lot of times I'll lean more towards the toy aspect. Like, to me, Megatron always has inner red thighs and inner red arms. Just, that's in my brain. That's what Megatron is. But I slept on that pillowcase for I don't know how many years, and I just was enamored by it. Something about the look of him and being a big semi truck. I think back at that age too, those are the biggest trucks you could get. So that was even cooler. I really don't know how it happened. It just sort of happened, and I gravitated toward Prime. I love the optimism of him, of the stuff that I did see, and being the leader. And I can't quite pinpoint it. It just stuck with me. Something just stuck in my head, and I've always loved it.
How long was it before you actually saw the show?
I don't remember. I know I saw it when I was a kid at some point, but I really don't remember. And I get asked my parents, but they'd be like, I don't know. You watched so much TV back then. So I couldn't really narrow it down that way.
Our parents could care less about screen time.
I just remember seeing GoBots more, and I think it's just because that when I was allowed to watch TV is when I first came home from school, and that was on, and maybe Transformers weren't, or I don't remember what the deal was, or maybe they thought it was like too violent for Transformers, but GoBots are okay. I mean, there was weird stuff like that. Like one time my brothers and I got the Rambo Mountain play set. I don't know who gave it to us. I really don't know.
Well, we all know Rambo's not that violent.
Right. Well, that's my point. My parents, they let us keep it, but they took all the guns. So all that was left was a black mountain and a garage door. And we made do with it as it were, but we didn't get to play with like the rest of the other stuff. So some of that stuff is a little foggy about when all that, like, timeline and all that. I just remember distinctly we had a babysitter one time, and the babysitter's little brother was over, and he was older than I was. and he was holding a toy, and I was like, what is that? And they're like, oh, your parents wouldn't let you want to see it. And it was Megatron, because it was a gun.
Oh.
So they let me kind of see it, and they transformed it for me, but other than that, I never really got to hold it. I do remember holding Shockwave, and that's another reason why I love Shockwave, just the look of him. But yeah, like it was very minimal. And then I got into collecting later when I was in college, when I had my own money.
Well, Shockwave shouldn't have been a problem. He's a submarine, right?
Right. He's a submarine.
Do you have a favorite and least favorite Optimus Prime figure?
You know, I keep on, especially with these new Optimus comes out, I keep on like trying to figure out what's my favorite. Honestly, I still think as far as transformation goes, MP1 did a lot of things right. I think they did. There's a lot of things that I like about it. And then I really like what they did with Bumblebee Prime. Like they did the legs that are always the way I wanted them to kind of transform and compact. Some of Prime did that a little bit, where the back of the cab kind of folded out into the legs and stuff to make up that mass. Because, you know, back of Prime is always just like a giant chunk where his wheels are, because you need mass for his legs. And some people have done some interesting customs to make that work, but I think this new Earthrise Prime is pretty incredible. I wish the legs transform more, but the upper half is, the way it folds and folds on itself is just so much fun. I play with it all the time. Least favorite, there's just a couple of them that are just kind of like boring. Like I think one of my least favorites was the giant Prime that worked with the Cyberverse toys for Prime. It was, you know, he, like, the little Prime could fit up in its thing, and I don't remember what that was called. But it's like the king of hollowness. Like, it's hollow in the front and the back. And that one's kind of my least favorite.
Mm.
But I do like the little Cyberverse Prime can fit up into a cockpit and like ride it like a giant suit. I mean, that's pretty neat. It's kind of why I got it. But when I got it, I was like, it's a little weak sauce here.
So there's a couple questions that came in. One of them, it's to all of us. Who of us saw GoBots first versus Transformers first? And Randy, you saw GoBots.
Well, I saw GoBots first, yeah. And actually, so the other memory I have is the and I can't remember the little black train from GoBots. I remember that distinctly. Like, there's weird little pockets, like Megatron, Shockwave, Soundwave for sure, and that one GoBot train. I've always, like, it's always just stuck in my head.
I think I saw Transformers first, though I was familiar with GoBots and did have some GoBots, but I could not stand the GoBots equivalent of Bumblebee, that Scooter. That guy sucked. All the Scooter fans out there, but no.
Need some rioting.
Not for me. Not yellow enough. Ryan, what about you?
Well, I was 13 in 1984, and I was a snob. It's Transformers all the way.
That's fair enough. You got started later. You know. As far as, well, I mean, not when you were older. So, but yeah, I think by the time I was 13, I was kind of done with toys. So I had moved on.
I quit for a little bit, thinking the girls would like me better. Should have never quit.
I moved on to playing in rock bands, so that helped me with the girls.
I moved on to other toys like Exo Squad.
What about you, Jason? Did you start with GoBots or did you start with Transformers?
No, I was all Transformers. I was born in '82. I think I think I got into Transformers probably around 85, 86. Because I remember seeing some G1 episodes, but I remember a lot more of season 3 than season 1 or 2. Given that and my age, that's probably about when I got into it. Also, most of my toys were like 86 onward, not so much at the like. I never had any 84 cars growing up.
Mm. Well, if you started with like 86 and 87, you'd get the older ones and try to pull their heads off and wonder why they didn't just disconnect.
Yeah. I got into it a little bit later. But I think I had a couple of GoBots growing up. I remember I had this like blue repaint of, I think, Leader 1, the little F-15.
Mm-hmm.
That probably became my Starscream sometimes when I was playing. But yeah, I have almost no memories of GoBots.
I've always thought that like Psykill was the best design. There's something about that one that just, maybe it was also because I was really into Tron, and so it's kind of like Light Cycle-esque. But I've always liked that. And the only thing that I think that GoBots has over Transformers is they have such a broad variety right out of the gate. Like, it was just so broad. Like, I mean, you have every type of vehicle in every area that they would travel, like submarines, airplanes, space shuttles. That Transformers have gotten there as far as their breadth, but right off the gate, I mean, at the start, it was primarily cars and jets.
Yeah.
But GoBots were like just full, like just weird stuff too. I mean, I loved it. I was like, there's a forklift? This is amazing. Just stuff like that. I was like, this is just so cool. It's just so unique. But otherwise, I mean, I do remember seeing the GoBots show and then seeing the cartoon at some point, and I don't remember what episode, but I was just like, oh man, this is way better. Like, everything about it is better. Like, just seemed like the quality, the animation. I had kind of an eye for some of that stuff even when I was little. So like some like the animation errors or the glitchiness, I would see that as a kid more. It wouldn't take away from me too much, but when I was comparing the two, I'm like, oh man, Transformers is way better.
There was a question that came in about, is there a toy of your character that you do not have yet that you really want?
Ooh, big one for me is the Toyota FJ Optimus Prime. That's the one I really wish I went and got. And you can still get it now, but it's just really expensive. And I'm like, it's kind of like, if I can find a decent price for it, I consider it. But I just love the transformation of it. And then I've missed out on a lot of the weird Japanese stuff, like the shoe, the hat, the PlayStation. I think there's another one that I missed out on, and those I'd like to, like, if I can, kind of go back and collect them. But I mean, I've got a good portion of them. I mean, pretty much every major incarnation I have, and I even have some, recolors or repaints, stuff like that, especially movie wise. But that FJ one is like the one I'm like always going back towards, and I always look up on eBay every once in a while.
What about you, Ryan?
Well, I passed up on getting one of the unreleased laser cycle version, the little green that never got released. I saw it on eBay maybe a year ago, whatever, and it went for ridiculous money. So that was one I passed up on. Wouldn't mind having, but probably not at $1,500 or whatever the heck it went for. Pretty much complete with everything else. Only other thing I'm missing the movie Big Huge Jazz statue. But other than that, I'm pretty complete.
Jason, what about you?
Yeah, statues are one for me that I have to pass on, because like there's that amazing. I think again, it's I know that it's Imaginarium. They did this amazing Grimlock versus Sharpicon statue. It's like $2,100.
Oh,
I looked at that and said, that is gorgeous. I want it, but I could buy so many other figures for that amount of money. There's another one from PCS that just came out, or it's about to come out. It's a G1 like cell shaded statue. It looks really pretty, but it's $250. It's like, if that were $200, I'd buy it in a heartbeat, or I'd almost buy it in a heartbeat. If it were like $170, absolutely, but $250 for something that's about the same size as the masterpiece, Maybe I'll hope that they'll just do like a cell shaded MP repaint or something. But the real thing that I really need, quote unquote, need in my collection is I have the blue G2 Grimlock. I don't have the turquoise one yet. I think I also still need to get the gray one. So those are obvious ones that I need to pick up at a toy show in the future.
There was a comment that came in to Ryan from a different Ryan who is actually going to be a dealer that's coming up in our next panel. He thinks that he may have a Jazz for you that you don't have. So,
Ooh,
it's a Ryan King is always trying to find that Bumblebee that I don't have, and he's been successful several times. As far as the Bumblebee that I'm still looking for, is I would love to get my hands on the Japanese release of the 1984 Bumblebee. The one that came in like the little box. It doesn't have to be sealed, though that would be amazing. But as far as just like to get that as like a neat little display, that would be pretty awesome because it's kind of different than how all the other Transformers have been packaged. Other than that, I'm with the rest of you guys. I don't have much in the way of the big statues at all, really. I kind of have a hard time dropping $400 or $500 on a statue.
Oh, for me, it's even worse because now they're coming up with these crazy Prime ones. The only statue I actually have is the War Within. I think Palisades did it, or maybe it was Diamond Select or something like that. War Within, and at that point, I was like, they're never going to make an official toy of this. So this is the closest thing I'll ever get to an official release of a War Within Prime. Later, they created the titanium version, but that was the only one I bought. But yeah, statues now, I mean, they just keep coming out. That 3A, even the smaller 3A Bumblebee Prime one, that's just gorgeous. It's just absolutely stunning. But I just can't. I'm like, I could take this money and buy other transforming primes, and that's what I really dig. But I mean, there's that other one that just released more video of. That's that all the gears move, like everything.
Yeah.
It's just engineering. Oh, makes my heart pitter patter. But I just don't have what it's like $2,000 or two. I don't remember. It's pricey. There's no way I could justify that in any way with the wife. Like, look, but it moves. She'd be like, okay.
Well,
what about your
have
shelf?
a second kid? this is kind of like it. You can push it around in a stroller. It'd be great.
I was pushing my justification with Unicron, so that's happening, but I can't push it on the statue. It's too much. I'd love to see them at some point. If anyone has one and they want to invite me over to look at it, I'd love to see it. Because if you have a statue of that Prime, you're a Prime fan, so we could talk shop for a bit. So put that out.
Randy will have nothing to do with me because I like Bumblebee, and he's like, no, not that guy.
Yeah. Do you all do both boxed and opened, or do you do box only, open only?
I open all of mine. I love playing with them. I love the engineering. That's the thing. I love that's the thing I love about Transformers. It's like the perfect toy. I got my vehicles, I got my robot, and I got an engineering puzzle. It's just all in one. It's what I love. There's other things. I mean, I love Starcom. That toy line is actually a huge favorite of mine. It's kind of like my nerdy, not as popular one that I've collected and I have a ton of. But Transformers is still just it's like Lego. People are like, well, you keep Lego in the box. Lego's a little bit different, but Transformers, I'm like, no, you gotta open it. So I always have to do it. I have very, very few sealed. In fact, the only one I think I have was first edition Revenge of the Fallen Prime that we got a BotCon that I got Peter Cullen to sign.
I've done both. I have some opened, I have some sealed. At one point I was getting 3 and having one in robot and one in vehicle and one in package. I spent a lot of money and I don't even have any of that stuff displayed anymore. But at this point, I'll kind of like if it's a repaint of a Bumblebee, I'll leave that one in package since I already have that molds to mess around with. Or if the packaging is really exceptionally cool, I'll leave it in there. Or the occasional, this Bumblebee just doesn't look like that much fun to mess around with, so I don't care about opening it. And there has been a few of those. What about you, Ryan?
Well, I've got both boxed and loose, including I have sealed G1. So I enjoy it both ways. I do the variants too. I think in the War for Cybertron they did a different colored visor, so I have both of those. I have the politically incorrect Jazz from Power of the Primes, where they had the Mega on him. So I have both versions of that, just to have different copies of that. So I try to stay pretty complete, but I'm lucky. I don't collect Optimus Prime or Bumblebee. There's so much more. Even Grimlock. I have a lot less product to worry about than you guys.
It's true.
That's always
Doesn't make my
surprised me.
character any less cool, though.
See, that's always that surprised me because Jazz is like he's like a really popular character that they don't make a lot of toys of, and that's just it always seems like he's always kind of he's always right there but not. I never realized that till Ryan pointed out. He's like, oh yeah, they don't have a lot. I'm like, oh, you're right, they only have had a couple.
There usually is like one or two come out every couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
There'll be something new, whereas Bumblebee and Prime, it's always something. Especially when there's a whole movie about that character, and so every product has multiple releases. So here's the question I have for you guys: is there a secondary character that you collect?
a secondary.
Like, is there another character that you collect, but not as much as?
Yeah, I have my other two favorites. My second favorite Autobot is Omega Supreme. He's just incredible. And then thankfully that they don't have a whole lot of those, so there's like 4 total, like official release of Omega. And then the other one would be Soundwave. I've always loved Soundwave, and I have kind of a mini Soundwave collection there. I'll get a lot of them, and then I'll dabble a little bit sometimes with Shockwave too. But for the most part, it's if I had to pick, it's Optimus Prime and Soundwave are like my 2 big ones.
What about you, Ryan?
I'd have to agree with Randy on Omega. Omega's right up there. And then I have to say I have a fond spot for Rumble. And Rumble is blue.
I was just about to ask.
Didn't let you get a chance.
Fur Rib.
He's blue to me too, Ryan. Jason, what about you?
Yeah, actually I do. See, Grimlock, there's this dark period where Hasbro, for whatever foolish reason, thought dinosaur robots would not sell, and so they kind of dropped the Dinobots for a while. And then in Revenge of the Fallen, like I wouldn't say I'm a car guy, but I always loved like Knight Rider, because like that really sleek, fast, sporty car. And so Corvettes are awesome. And then of course in Revenge of the Fallen, even though the movie's questionable, there's just this gorgeous concept Corvette they turned to Sideswipe. And granted, it's not a G1 Sideswipe. The character has almost no character to him, but he looks amazing. And so I use that as an opportunity to kind of play with all the different parts of the line. Because the reason I like character collecting is it gives me an excuse to buy all those really kind of weird one-offs or all different weird, like the kitty lines, like the one-step changers and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm justified in at least one of each of those to kind of see what that gimmick is. And so, and then in Revenge of the Fallen, of course, they had all that money coming off that first movie, and they had the Fast Action Battlers, they had the Gravity Bots, the Legends, and the Human Alliance. And so it's like, well, so I thought it looks amazing. It's got this great alt mode, and the road mode looks really cool and sleek. So I'll start collecting that character. And they when it has great repaints. Like I really like the Nest repaint, where they had like the red windshield and the black stripes on the side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. with the guns, right? He came with the guns.
No, that was Siren Sideswipe. That was red
Oh.
windows, red flames on the hood because
That's
right.
right.
Flames are cool, right?
Yeah.
There's a car version that had no red flames on it. It was just pure gray, and it actually looks really nice too.
I'm still kind of shocked that it took us Michael Bay, the live action movie, to do a Transformer with wheels for feet. Like maybe it was in the comics, but I don't remember anything other official. Like I was like, that's such a cool concept.
Yeah, but but of course, as you see with Sideswipe, they had to do some unique things to get him to actually be able to stand up.
Yeah, but I mean, I actually have one of those another Human Alliance ones because I was like, this would be a perfect repaint into like a alternator Blur, because he just to me looks like just a perfect Blur. Just the sleekness and everything. Like you paint that metallic blue, and I'm like, you're almost done. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah, that would totally make an awesome movie Blur.
Yeah. I'm shocked I hadn't seen it before, but sorry, that's a slight tangent.
Well, look at him now. The head on Sideswipe is actually kind of Blur-like. It's got that swept back look with the kind of fins on the top.
Mm-hmm. I think if you just like put a little bit more spiky stuff coming off of it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of make him look like he's moving while standing still. Like that to me is like Blur. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, for me, I'm with Jason as far as like the Dinobots. So that's my secondary character is Grimlock, and the rest of the Dinobots, just the gray and gold and with the red highlights in a lot of them and stuff like that. So I've got a bit of a Dinobot collection as well, and it doesn't hurt that my son is also really into dinosaurs. So it's kind of brought that back to me, for me as well.
Yeah, that's weird. I wonder how that happened.
Yeah. Well, I was always into dinosaurs when I was a kid.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But then, like, as I grew older, I was like, okay, dinosaurs are neat, whatever. But then that was something that my son gravitated towards, but I started collecting, and there they are. There's some of them, not all of them. Yeah. So, how much of your guys' collecting is your collection of the character that you collect versus all the other Transformers you collect? Like, if you put a percentage, like half my collection is the character and half my collection is other stuff, or is it more or less of a percentage?
Guess I'll go. Well, with Jazz, there not being as much, 20% maybe, maybe less. It only fills a few cabinets, so I would say it's a pretty small percentage of my collection.
I want to think like, oh, it's only like a quarter, but honestly, I have a lot of stuff. But my problem is I don't have hardly any of it displayed right now. It's all really packed away. The one picture I was able to send Jason, I mentioned to him, like, I'm sorry it's not a great picture to send to you, but because I have a whole bunch of boxes in my toy room here, I couldn't get a really good view of it. And there's a lot of stuff that's just not put out because I just don't have room for it. I'm like, kind of the only thing I'm kind of doing all this new Power of the Primes, all that stuff, and then my Optimus Prime. Like those two top shelves are just Optimus Prime, and everything below it is like other. So I've tried to cram it in there, and I've also tried to make it so I have a good representation of everything. So there's some stuff that I have another of, or it's kind of similar to something else. So like I only have one Revenge of the Fallen, or one, like you can see I have the boxed and signed Peter Cullen one, and then Masterpiece is next to it, and then Movie 1 Prime is next to it, and then the Amazon Flying one is next to that. And otherwise, that's like the most I have doubles of displayed, because otherwise I just don't have room for it. And I've tried to that upper shelf, I was trying to really, if I have doubles, I put the second one in truck mode. So it's just kind of hard to count them all out right now. It's maybe quarter to to a third is Prime compared to the rest of my collection.
Well, and vehicle mode takes up a lot more space too.
Yeah.
Especially with Prime.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, and I also was trying to do it with a lot of trailers and stuff, and that's actually one thing that I'm really excited at some point is to display it all at SideFest, to try to like really show it off and have every single version of Prime with his trailer that's possible like laid out. I think that'd be really cool seeing it lined up like that. So I think one of these years I'm going to try and make that happen. I'm just trying to also go through my collection and get rid of a bunch of stuff because I'm trying to like wean it down to what I really want to keep. So at some point, my Optimus Prime collection will be like half of it because I'm going to get rid of everything else.
What about you, Jason?
Yeah, it's a relatively small portion of my collection. I brought none of the screen share. 1 second too soon. Because again, there aren't a whole lot of Grimlocks, though. Thanks to the last couple of movies, there's a lot more now than there were. Basically, that one corner, and then a couple of those shelves right next to it are my Grimlocks. We're currently working on consolidating and curating my movie toys in order to make room for all of the Cyberverse and RID 2015 Grimlocks. I still have all of those. They're actually still currently unopened in the garage because I don't have space for them. But I do want to make space for them at some point because there are a lot of, again, really interesting variations, especially the red Grimlock. They did the Fall of Cybertron remolded into him to actually make a proper Voyager-sized one, so it looks better with the rest of the cast.
There was some love for the Grimlock plush.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one of the Pasadena BotCons. Ben and I were there, and Ben saw this girl walking around selling them out of a bag just in the dealer room. You probably have one there somewhere on the ground.
I have one.
I remember that.
Yeah, and then I never saw her, but we were kind of talking about it, and then Ben came up to me at the last of this show and handed it to me, said $15 because he'd cornered her or something. So yeah,
But then I also have like all these other little plush.
Yeah, those are on my to get lists from MythFit.
I have a whole bunch of Bumblebee plush too, but there's actually a Bumblebee movie plush that was released in Japan that was pretty limited, and it was through Volkswagen that I would love to get my hands on, but it's kind of pricey right now.
I actually have a question for you.
What was
I have
that?
a question for you guys. Is there one? I mean, I think the answer is probably going to be MP, but is there one of your character that you think is the best representation, or overall the best representation? Whether it be, I'd prefer to maybe focus on transforming, but if you think a statue or an action master or like Revoltech type thing is the better one, like you just think overall it looks like perfect.
Yeah, Masterpiece. It seems like kind of a cheat. Because
yeah, I mean it's kind of a cheap, but I mean that's fine. I mean, Ben, it could also be like, you prefer the Bumblebee movie Bumblebee over the, like it's got like the same aspect of it, or like you think that's a really cool. Because I actually really really enjoyed what they did with the movie Bumblebee, the Bumblebee movie version.
Yeah. I think I'll go back.
They kept them round and kind of cute, but still kind of modern, and I thought that was a really cool take. Yeah,
I think I'll stick with the 06 Classics Bumblebee. It's kind of got that modern car look. He looks a little bit more like battle ready, with like the kind of the doors on his arm and stuff. But he still has that kind of cute, harmless sort of. Feel to him still.
And the jet ski flight pack thing is pretty cool too. I really dug that. Wasn't that Classics one? Am I messed up?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there was another question that came in. Did once everyone gets done with their ideal figure representation?
Okay. Well, as far as ideal figure for me, I've got my fingers crossed for the 86 Studio Series movie Bumblebee. Or not Bumblebee, sorry. Jazz. I'm hoping for no door wings, and just right out of the '86 movie.
I think you're. I don't know, man. From what I've seen, like that leak of the Cyclonus and everything, I think you're finally going to get what you want there. It seems like it's aiming for that direction.
The United one was great, but I'm a purist of the cartoon. Get rid of the door wings. I mean, the more animation looking to G1, which has always been the way I love to collect, is that Sunbow cartoon was my love, the characterization of the characters. I mean, Scatman Crothers for me is what made Jazz, and that's why I love them. So everything for my collecting goes back to that Sunbow. So I'm hoping that's where I'm going to get my ultimate version there, because I don't know if I'm ever going to see a masterpiece.
Well, hopefully
maybe licensing is not an issue.
Real quick, Jason, and then I want to get back to this question that's been asked.
So for I don't know about like the best version, like best G1 version, or best G1 version obviously is a masterpiece. Though my favorite Grimlock is actually the Fall of Cybertron one, because like in the Marvel comics he was actually a brilliant commander. In the cartoon he was the dumb robot. In the season 3 he became just a comic relief. Though I really do like the Red 15 Grimlock, because I thought that was a kind of a fun version of the character. I love the Cyberverse version because basically Beast is my favorite X-Man, and basically Cyberverse Grimlock is Beast.
Yeah.
So that's hilarious. But my favorite Grimlock is Fall of Cybertron, because I felt like they kind of had the best mesh of like the brilliant commander that was kind of had the dumb caveman voice, and a really good reason why that was because Shockwave experimented on him and basically focus all of his processing into aggression, and that made him this big, powerful Hulk. Mm-hmm. I thought it's great, and the toy is not perfect, but it's a pretty good representation of that incarnation of the character.
Okay, so the question that we got in was, what does everyone do for a living, and how they prioritize their collecting with budgets, especially with family expenses and stuff.
My wife's in the other room. I gotta be quiet. I guess I go first since I talked. I have worked oil spill response for 28 years, and I make sure the bills are paid, but I definitely probably spend more than I should.
But you also treat your wife beautifully.
Yes, I spoil my wife, so that usually covers me for some extra toys.
I've been working at Microsoft, and I work in their prototyping department. So I build all the original prototypes for hardware, so like Surfaces, Xbox, all that stuff. Budget-wise, I used to, before I had a family, I would just kind of buy whatever. I mean, especially with the movie lines, I just was nuts. Like I just bought everything, and I really started to focus on what the stuff I wanted to collect. And so now I'm a lot more picky. I'm also trying to collect specific things, trying to get the best version of the character, but also keeping in mind what I already own. So, an example, I haven't bought the new Sideswipe and haven't bought the new Sunstreaker because I kind of like the Classics version, the way it used the same mold and flipped it. So I'm trying to like think of branching out and trying to pick the best character, but also not blow out my budget and just buy the brand new character every single time it comes out. So it's a weird balance, and I'm still kind of messing with it, but I'm also having a lot of fun with it. And as far as budget wise, I'm just really try to be careful. I don't buy everything. I sometimes will wait. Sometimes I miss out on stuff because I wait because I'm like, do I really need this? But in the end, I feel pretty fortunate that I'm able to do this and enjoy this hobby. So I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, real quick, I work for Boeing. I work in the simulation lab there. And then as far as budgets goes, I try to be mindful of it. I try to be responsible with it. I also focus on my priorities. So my priorities are basically Grimlock, Masterpiece, Neo Classics, and then like the main line after that.
For me, I'm now a stay-at-home dad. But before that, when I was working, I used to spend a lot of my money on Transformers when I didn't have as many bills. And now to kind of afford the stuff that I do have, I'm been kind of selling off the stuff that I don't want anymore, and that's kind of how I'm able to buy the stuff that I got now. It's like I'm recycling the money I already spent, and sometimes some of that stuff has gone up in value, so it's helped to keep me in the lifestyle I've become accustomed to. So we are actually out of time. We need to get ready for our first dealer panel. Dealer panel, for lack of a better term, with Ryan King. Lots of cool stuff he's going to have for sale. So stick around for that, everybody. And thank you, Randy and Ryan, for participating in this and all your insights. And Jason, thank you for participating. So, we'll be back in a couple minutes with our first dealer panel.